Hey, wait, I have to review Mission Impossible Fallout? Or this phone will self-destruct in about 10 seconds? Okay, I need to run to my house in less than 10 seconds. Got it. Finally I'm home, let's do the review! What is up, guys? So yesterday I saw a movie that really changed my mind on the way I view action movies, and I have to say this has to be one of the best and greatest action movies I have seen in years. Mission Impossible Fallout is the 6th installment to the Mission Impossible franchise, and it's directed by Christopher McQuarrie, and he's the same guy who directed Rogue Nation, the previous one. And it stars Tom Cruise, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Henry Cavill, Angela Bassett, Alec Baldwin, Vanessa Kirby, and so many other roles. And it picks off where Mission Impossible 5 left off with Ethan Hunt after catching Solomon Lane. And in this film, I will not go into detail about the plot and the story because I want everybody to go into this movie as blind and as absent-minded as possible. And I forgot to mention that Jeremy Renner did not make it back for this 6th Mission Impossible franchise because of conflict due to the Avengers, but the way I can describe this plot is that Ethan Hunt and the IMF have gone rogue once again, and they basically had a mission in Berlin that went wrong, and then later it's up to Ethan Hunt and the IMF to prove their innocence again, and to make up for the entire mission, and to prove to the CIA and everyone that they are worth it and that the IMF is still important to the entire world. And that's all I can say. It's just the usual type of plot that you see in a Mission Impossible movie, like something goes wrong, it needs to be fixed, and then the IMF is there to take care of it. And so I will actually shut up about the plot, and I will just go to the analysis. This movie was just amazing! Words really cannot describe how amazingly beautiful and badass this movie was, because this movie has the true definition of an action movie, and it's everything I wanted from an action movie, and that's all thanks to Tom Cruise, the cast, Christopher McQuarrie, everybody involved to this project, because this movie was totally worth it, and the action was worth it. So let me get into it. First of all, the directing is just fantastic. Christopher McQuarrie did an amazing job in Mission Impossible Fallout. He was a really good choice from Rogue Nation, and I really liked his direction in Rogue Nation. But in this one, he goes all out, you know. He was really devoted to this project, and the way he directed the actors into making their characters and putting them in situations that were very impossible really impressed me. And I was also impressed with the way that he made his actors be in the moment, as if they were really their characters. And that's something you have to give props to McQuarrie, because he's someone who really understands the MI world and how it functions. And so that is something that I really loved about this movie. Everything in this movie has everything that I wanted from an action movie, and it's all due to compelling storytelling and writing, terrific action, terrific stunt work, and then wonderful acting, and then, you know, beautiful, beautiful cinematography. And that's all due to, like what I said, just everybody in this movie. They really worked together. You can tell that they were really pressured to make the best Mission Impossible movie ever. And I have to say, this probably has to be my favorite out of the MI series, and I will explain why. Everybody in this movie was just amazing. The acting from this movie is just awesome. It's what I expected from a Mission Impossible series, and all the former cast members from the previous Mission Impossible movies, they continue to shine in their roles in Fallout, and I really love them. Simon Pegg as Benji, he's still funny, he's still got the humor. Ving Rhames is still very muscular, and he's very cool as Luther. I've always loved him as Luther ever since the first movie. And later you got Rebecca Ferguson, who's still very mysterious and still very tough as Ilsa Faust, and I really loved her. I even loved her back in Rogue Nation, and she is very, very pretty. And then you also have Angel Bassett and Henry Cavill, which were the two additions to this movie, and I was really curious about where this movie was going to take them, you know? And due to the writing, I was really amazed that they carried them that way, and especially with Henry Cavill and his character, and the way that Henry Cavill moves when he fights, you know, when he has a fist pump in that, when he makes those fists in the fight. It was really cool, and I can see why DC would cast him as Superman. And of course you have Tom Cruise, and hold on for a minute. Tom Cruise! You have proved to us that you probably are the #1 action movie star we have today, and you are the reason why this movie rocked! Yeah! Sorry about that, guys. I had to keep my cool. I know I can't go too loud because I might run out of breath, but honestly, Tom Cruise was he's the #1 reason why this movie was just Mission Impossible, because you can tell that he really, he's really devoted as Ethan Hunt, and the way he goes on his stunts, and oh my god, the stunts. I need to critique that. He's not just great in this movie. Okay, let's just say he's great in this movie, but I need to go into stunts right away. The stunts in this movie were just unbelievably incredible. I was incredibly speechless throughout the entire movie in my seat, when I was at the movie theater, and whenever the stunts were on screen, they really blew me away. And I honestly do not know how to describe these stunts, because these stunts were just amazing. Tom Cruise sure is really crazy when it comes to stunt, but he goes all out. And the way how I'm going to critique this is that it's through cinematography and stunt work, because they go hand in hand. And first of all, the cinematography is incredibly amazing. You get to see the cities of London, Paris, Berlin, and all those European places. And then you get to the cinematography in the way how they film stunt work, and the stunt work and the action sequences were just... And so basically, in almost everything in this movie is on camera. And then you can also kind of tell that majority of this movie is in green screen. And that is the #1 praise I have to give this movie, is that majority of these movies, or majority of these stunts, were just performed by, stunt doubles and then Tom Cruise. And then Tom Cruise just, he's going all out, and he's running, and he's riding a motorcycle, and then he's filming a chase scene, and it was just so awesome! 2 of my favorite chase scenes from this movie were the ones I saw in theaters, and then they're also from the trailer, so I hope I'm not going to give too much away. One of the coolest chase scenes that I saw was the motorcycle chase scene through Paris, and it's really fast, and it reminded me of the Rogue Nation motorcycle chase scene. And of course, Tom Cruise is just going all out on his motorcycle, and he's going super fast with no helmet, and the way he's going through this movie and the way they filmed it is just complete perfection of what you see in film. And some filmmakers can go into this and go like, whoa, how do they do this really fast? And then, he's just riding that motorcycle, and then when you see Tom Cruise riding that motorcycle, it feels like you're getting through like a tour of Paris. And then, of course, the other one, we've already seen Tom Cruise on an airplane, but my second favorite chase scene was when Tom Cruise just goes on a helicopter and he just flies, and I'll just say he flies, okay? He flies, and it's kind of like watching the X-Wing fight from Star Wars, and there's nothing else I want to give out because I really do not want to spoil this movie. And yeah, the action of this movie also follows, the plot and the story very well, and that's the next thing I'm going to critique is the plot and storyline. I have to say the plot and storyline were just amazing, and it kind of reminded me of the first Mission Impossible movie. Now this movie actually has a very complex plot and storyline that can be a little hard to follow for some people, and going into this movie, this may be a bit of a flaw for some. And it might be also a flaw because it has kind of the same storyline from every other Mission Impossible movie, like, oh my goodness, there's a weapon that the IMF has to recover or else something bad will happen. And it's basically the same thing. And without spoiler detail, I'll just say it's basically kind of like the same thing, but with just different things that happen in the plot. And like what I said, the plot is very complex, and it's one of those movies where even though the action sequences are just incredibly fun to watch and incredibly gripping, there are also movies where you really have to understand what's going on, because once you kind of lose focus, you will lose a bit of you will basically lose focus on what will happen next and what is going on. And also there's a lot of key points that you have to follow, and those are things that people need to watch out for while watching this movie. Like as if one scene was really important to another scene that would happen later in the second or third act. Those are things that people need to watch out for. And the thing I actually have to give praise the most, I know I said I give praise the most, but this movie in whole deserves the amount of praise, but the thing I have to give praise as well is basically the way that they handled the characters. And as I've said, everyone is amazing, but the way that they developed characters in this movie was just amazing. And the one character that is developed entirely the most is Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. They really build his character the most in this movie. You get to see like what he's going through and what's keeping this Mission Impossible movie a Mission Impossible. And actually, I have to say that this is one of the darkest Mission Impossible movies I've ever seen. There may be humor in some scenes, but there are some scenes that were just incredibly dark, and honestly, they were a bit frightening at times. And that's all I'm going to say is that this was way darker than I expected it to be, even though there was humor. And it's still fun, but I guess you can say that this is basically the Dark Knight of Mission Impossible movies. And some people might say, like, oh, how could you say, well, it's just, you know, when you have a struggling character, and then you have everything and then you have everything in position, and then you have, you know, things going on and in chaos, and then you have all these stunts that are just in camera, and then a dark storyline. That's the way how I think of it. I'm just saying that this movie was just way darker than I expected it to be, and probably the most mature out of the Mission Impossibles, which really says something about this MI film. And basically, I just want to end my Mission Impossible Fallout review over here because I really do not want to go into so much, because this movie is just, it's really special, honestly, guys. And this is a movie I really recommend for people to go check out in the theaters. It's now considered one of the coolest action movies of all time, and therefore, because of everything I've geeked out about, I really have to honestly give Mission Impossible Fallout a 10 out of 10. Well, that's it for my review, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Mission Impossible Fallout review. I had a lot of fun filming this movie outside. Well, actually, I had fun filming the intro outside. So, thank you for everybody who's participated in this, watching this. And please be sure to subscribe. And thank you very much. And I will be sure to have another movie review up.